Today, the US is unleashing a series of punitive measures on Iran, hitting its financial sector and, of course, its oil exports. It started with a war of the memes. On Friday, President Donald Trump tweeted out a Game of Thrones reference, saying sanctions are coming. And then a general of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, Qasem Soleimani, came out with a GOT meme of his own on Instagram, responding, "I will stand against you." But the US is actually in a tight spot. It can't drive Iran's oil exports completely down to zero, because that would spike prices and hurt the average American. So the Trump administration is granting temporary waivers to 8 countries, of which we know that includes Turkey, China, Japan, India and South Korea. Iran's oil exports have dropped by 39% since April as a result of these sanctions. Iran hit peaks in June, selling around 2.7 million barrels per day of crude oil and condensate. Since then, it's down to only 1.3 million barrels per day in October, and analysts expect the sanctions to only deepen that fall. Of course, it's the Iranian people who are expected to bear the brunt of this latest round of sanctions. Georgina Robertson tells us more about the impact inside the country.
Against Tehran have already started to bite. In the past year, Iran's currency, the rial, has lost over 70% of its value against the dollar. This means that people's purchasing power has plunged. In the month of October, shoppers had to pay 50% more for their food than a year ago.
We can see the effect of sanctions because we're in the bazaar. There was a man here today who did not have money to buy lotion for his baby because the economic situation is getting worse and the people are very poor and in a very bad situation.
Many people are already struggling to afford the necessities such as food and medicine. The Iranian government has implemented a food basket program reminiscent of the one used during Iran's war with Iraq in the 1980s, when both food and fuel were rationed. Sam Cordier is a manager at an advertising firm. He has been forced to sack 6 of his 30 staff and reduce salaries.
Young people, they're between the ages of 25 to 35. They've studied, they're excited about what they want to do in the future. Now, hope is being taken away from them.
But there are thousands who remain defiant, and this weekend saw colossal anti-American protests.
These sanctions don't have any effect on us. Every disaster comes to the people from our government. And 1,000 Trumps can't do anything to us.
These sanctions target Iran's oil sector, which accounts for more than 40% of the country's revenues. There is little doubt that Iran and its people will be hit hard.
In China, President Xi Jinping kicked off an international import expo on Monday with a promise to open up China's market in a rebuke of Trump's trade wars. Let's have a listen.
China will further reduce tariffs, improve the level of convenience in customs clearance, reduce the institutional costs of import links, and accelerate the development of new modes of new business, such as cross-border e-commerce.
And now let's have a look at how the markets are reacting to that. So despite President Xi's bravura attempt to promote China as a bastion of globalization, markets in Asia were trading downwards on Monday. The Shanghai Composite fell just shy of 0.5%, and the Hang Seng Index was down by a wider margin at over 2.33%. In Japan, the Nikkei followed suit, dropping over 1.5%. Major European markets were opening flat on Monday as investors digest these sanctions. The FTSE 100 was off by 0.1%, while the Paris CAC 40 was just opening on the flat line, and Frankfurt's DAX up only very slightly. Now, Ride Pass is the new subscription service for loyal Uber customers in the US. It's been rolled out in 5 cities: Los Angeles, Miami, Orlando, Austin and Denver. Passengers pay between $15 and $24 a month to avoid surge pricing during rush hour. The firm hopes that this new scheme will convince people to ditch their own cars in favour of the ride-hailing app. And over 70 business leaders in the UK signed an open letter on Sunday calling for a people's vote on the eventual Brexit deal. The letter warns that a destructive, hard Brexit will damage the economy and that they have already seen a slump in investment. But it looks like they're shouting into the wind. UK Prime Minister Theresa May has firmly rejected the idea of a second vote. And so that's bad news for business after Brexit, it seems.
OK, thanks very much, Catherine. Catherine Bennett with the Business on France 24.